crazy things have happened over the last 2 months to the point where I'm not going to be ready to watch this until Saturday when I wake up and I don't have any alerts on my phone and it's telling me the fights are still on. Literally, every morning that I've been waking up, the first thing I do is check my phone to see that the event has not been canceled overnight. And I don't see that. So we're going to see what happens. Conor McGregor already came out and said that he's going to observe what happens at these cards coming up Saturday and then a couple days next week, because we have 3 cards in a span of 8 days. Mm-hmm. So Conor wants to see what's going to happen, if it's going to be done properly, and if it's done properly, if everybody's healthy and everything gets done the right way, then he's probably going to fight. So I think a lot of fighters are on the same boat as Conor McGregor on seeing how this fight card goes, especially the first one, because obviously there's going to be some hiccups, and how they're going to clean it up in the next couple cards, we're going to find out. We're going to get 3 cards in Jacksonville coming up, and they're hot card. UFC 249 on Saturday, though, is the best card yet. And when you look at the lineup, I don't want to say we have one main card. We have 2 main cards. And I'm not going to hiccup when I say that, man, because when you see these cards right now, the first fight is probably the only fight that you could kind of say, okay, that maybe might be on a prelim on a different card when you see Smiling Sam Alvey and Ryan Spann. But after that, we have all main fight type cards. Bryce Mitchell, Charles Rosa, Ware Doom and Alexei Oleinik. Holy smokes. You know, those guys being on the prelims, Jacare Souza, Uriah Hall, those are all main card type fighters. And they're all vets. They're all established. There are some young fighters in the card, but those are the exciting young fighters that the UFC has to offer right now. So we're going to get some young studs, and then we're going to get a bunch of bangers and a bunch of guys who are established and fighting for something, essentially. You know, doing a bunch of reviews on the fighters that are going to fight at UFC 249. Every single fight has something on the line. When it doesn't just have to be a belt. It could be for their record. It could be how many fights they have left to kind of maybe get a title shot. Michelle Watterson and Carla Esparza, they're going to be on the prelims. I have to think about it because they should be on the main card, but they're on the prelims because this card is literally so stacked. And when you see the potential in that fight, Carla Esparza on a nice winning streak right now, the former strawweight champion, the first UFC strawweight champion until she lost to Joanna Jędrzejczyk. You know, she's been trying to climb the ranks to get to this belt yet again. Like, oh, man. Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje, you know, just the main event of the whole entire UFC 249. A fight that was supposed to be Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson for the 5th time did not happen. It's a bummer, but at the same time, we get Justin Gaethje, and that's honestly probably the best replacement we could have on this card instead of Khabib. It's a fan-friendly type fight. The guys are going to go at it. They're going to beat the living hell out of each other, and one's going to go down. If you're going to ask me who I think the winner is, I'm going to go with Tony Ferguson. He's a slight favorite in Vegas right now, as he should be. The guy has been undefeated until he faced Michael Johnson. What's his winning streak at right now? He has 1 loss in the UFC. Forget all pro fights outside of the UFC. He's 15-1. 15-1. In the UFC, to be 15-1, you are above elite. Because we know that the UFC, you get the baddest fighters coming in from all different types of organizations. So to be on a large winning streak like Tony Ferguson is and have 15 UFC wins against dangerous guy after dangerous guy after dangerous guy, the guy's not scared of anything. And Justin Gaethje, he's going to create some problems for Tony Ferguson, especially when they're in the phone booth type boxing, because Justin Gaethje has tremendous hands. But at the same time, I think of the other side, what is Tony Ferguson going to bring towards Justin Gaethje? Has Justin Gaethje ever fought a guy like Tony Ferguson? And I don't think he has. When you look at some of the guys that Justin Gaethje has beat, Edson Barbosa, that's a great name right there. James Vick, that's another fantastic name. Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Big fighters, but they're not Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson has mauled through those guys as well. And what an exclamation mark to the main event. You know, I don't think you could have really put a better main event to a card like this, because just looking at the co-main, and when you look at the co-main, Henry Cejudo, Dominic Cruz, a championship fight, you know, back-to-back championship fights, the bantamweight belt on the line yet again. Henry Cejudo, king of cringe, the triple C, triple champ, Olympic winner, bantamweight champion, flyweight champion. But he's beat legends like Demetrius Johnson and TJ Dillashaw, an Olympic winner, like I said. He has a lot of hype behind his name now, and this is definitely the biggest wave he's ever ridden when it comes to fame, when it comes to the bright lights, when it comes to his name shining higher than it's ever shone before. You know, even when he was in the Olympics, people knew who Henry Cejudo was in the wrestling world. Now Henry Cejudo is coming into this like, I'm a star around the world. It's not just around the States. Now he's gone into international because he's also Latino American. So you know that there's a lot of Latino people behind his name, and obviously there's a lot of Americans behind his name because he won that medal with the United States. So
The guy is a stud, and he's learned how to talk like one recently too. So he's selling the fight. Dominic Cruz hasn't really had to do much talking. He's always kind of been that same old stubborn, I'm the best bantamweight ever. So even when I'm injured for 3 years, I'm still the best. I'll come back and I'll do it again. And the thing with that right there, which makes it great, is Dominic Cruz was a champion. He got hurt. Then he gets a 3 to 4 year layoff. And next thing you know, he fights TJ Dillashaw. A hot TJ Dillashaw, the bantamweight champion, defeated Renan Barão. The guy's knockout after knockout. Joe Soto, just an incredible TJ Dillashaw, who was a young, hungry lion who looked unstoppable. His coach Dwayne Ludwig looked like the best coach in the world by how TJ Dillashaw was performing. What does Dominic Cruz come do? Beats TJ Dillashaw in a 5-round war. Was it a close fight? Sure. But that's what Dominic Cruz is. Forget ring rust. Forget a 3.5 year layoff. Who cares? That's all in your head. That's what Dominic Cruz says. And you know what? He could back up that talk because of what his resume says. So are we going to see that again? It'd be something crazy to see Dominic Cruz beat Henry Cejudo because he hasn't fought since he lost to Cody Garbrandt almost 4 years ago. So he's going to do essentially the same thing he did to TJ. This could be history repeating itself. Are you going to go with the old man who's been around for a long time, or are you going to go with the young, hungry lion who claims to be the best combat sports athlete ever? When you talk like that, I feel karma coming around. The second you start calling yourself the best ever, you lose, unless you're Floyd Mayweather Jr. If for some reason I just feel like, be humble. If we've learned anything in the MMA, not boxing, in MMA, is the best man is always a humble man. Because the second thing you kind of lose that humbleness, it bites you back really, really hard, and it brings you back to reality. And we've seen the best guys in the world go through this whole process. I think we might see it again with Henry Cejudo. I think Henry Cejudo is going to have the toughest test of his life. And I think Dominic Cruz has seen guys like Henry Cejudo, and he's beat them. So I think more pressure is on Henry in this fight. And you know what? The talking that he does for himself and the promotion that he does for himself, which is great for him because he's getting more fans the right way or the wrong way. It doesn't matter. Colby Covington, wrong way fans, they're still watching. So he's making fans no matter what. But there's pressure that comes with that talk. And, there's not going to be any fans in the arena, but he's built up so much pressure in the outside world that he might feel it if he gets knocked out, or he might feel it if he's not the guy who he's been saying he is, the greatest combat athlete of all time. Those are big words going on. Obviously, you've seen Bob Arum, a big name in boxing, destroy the UFC and destroy Dana White because of what's going on. I know there's people in the world that think this should not be happening. We should be staying indoors. I'm not the guy who's going to say something can happen if it's not done correctly. If we're going to be social distancing, I know the fighters aren't going to be social distancing, but at the same time, the fighters are being tested right now. And if they have no cases for COVID-19, I don't see the problem with them not getting in the mat and doing what they love to do, but also making some money, which is essentially what they're fighting for. They're fighting to get paid. And there's lots of fighters who need to fight to get paid. They're all about it. But I do understand the safety concerns, and that's why a lot of fighters don't want to be on this card just yet. Like I mentioned earlier, Conor McGregor wants to know how these first couple of fight cards are going to go if things are done correctly. Me, myself, I'm on that same boat. I'm observing everything that's happening right now and seeing if nothing is being skipped. Nobody's getting lazy, for example. Everybody's on edge, making sure that everybody is safe, from the media members to the judges, to the fighters, to the guys who are doing the interview like John Anik and Joe Rogan, who will also be commentating at UFC 249 after he said a month ago that he would not. So he's there. The schmo's there. My man John Morgan is there. Everybody's there, and they're all getting tested. I promise you that. So I'm all happy for this right now. If somebody has COVID-19, oh man, that's going to be when we wake up that morning and check our phones and we know the event's going to be canceled because John Anik was just tested positive for COVID-19 on Saturday morning when he woke up. God forbid that happens, because if that is to happen, the fight is scrapped. Next week is scrapped. It's all scrapped, okay? And God forbid that. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope we don't get another episode of, Utah Jazz OKC basketball game where the refs or the team doctors running the midcourt saying, "Stop the game! We can't let Chris Paul get COVID. He's getting a little old. Come on now." None of that. But we all know this is a fragile situation.